Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and it's time for another Primetime Crisis vlog. Today talking about the latest episode of Arrow. It's the mid-season finale. Oh boy, we love our mid-season finales these days. When I was a kid, the season cliffhanger was not yet a big giant deal yet until Next Generation did the Best of Both Worlds. Then they were everywhere after that. I'm not saying that it was the first time we did it, but after that it seemed kind of obligatory that a lot of genre shows felt the need to do that all the time. Now we do it with mid-season finales. Now we gotta have one of those twice a year, and the mid-season finale is called What You Leave Behind, not to be confused with Deep Space Nine's series finale, What You Leave Behind, and this episode title primarily is referring to the identity of Prometheus, or at least it seems. I mean, I suppose there's every possibility that Prometheus isn't actually Claiborne, but given that the episode title seems to be referring to the son of the Claiborne that Oliver killed, it would be really strange if down the line we retroactively decided no, or even if it's not retroactive, even if they have decided already, the writers and producers, no, it's not actually going to be Claiborne. It turns out it's someone else. This ends up being a very strange episode title indeed, but the idea here is that we have this guy who Oliver killed in the first season in an episode we never saw. It feels like kind of a lost episode that we're flashbacking to this episode. President of a pharmaceutical company gets killed by Arrow, or by the Hood at that point, by Oliver Queen, and his son wants revenge 5 years later, before something years later, but by the end of the episode, we don't actually unmask him. The person who is in the Hood at the end is Bobby, Felicity's boyfriend. Is that his name? Am I right about that? Is it Bobby, or am I making that up? See, this guy hasn't been in enough for me to get... Billy is his name. This guy hasn't been in enough for me to regularly remember his name, and I always look at him and have a hard time not calling him not Zack Snyder. But anyway, so this guy is in the Hood, but nobody freak out. He's not actually the bad guy. It doesn't turn out that he's been going around and being Prometheus and wants to kill Oliver, or what actually doesn't want Oliver Queen dead, wants Oliver to suffer before he dies. Hold on. Okay, that was, everyone just remember, that was a professional sneeze. Oliver unmasks him after he's killed him, and it turns out that it was Prometheus, or that it was Billy just walking around with a gag and couldn't say anything, and had a speaker where the real Prometheus was talking through him. So Oliver has accidentally murdered Felicity's boyfriend. She was almost at this point, for today's Felicity, was almost uncharacteristically understanding about that at the end, I thought. And this episode is all about Oliver having to face the consequences of his actions and ask himself whether or not Prometheus is right when he says that everything Oliver touches dies, and that everyone who's around him is affected in a horrible, negative way, and anything that happens to them because Oliver decided to be the Arrow and decided to bring other people into his quest to fix the city is actually Oliver's fault, and that's what he's dealing with at the end, acting pretty reactive, as he often is when he says, "You all need to get away from me," to his team, and he is kind of turned around there by Samantha, who tells him that the last thing he should do is to push away the people that he loves, and that, as Thea said earlier in the episode, he is looking at just the bad and not the good, and not looking at the ways in which he has improved, and the way and the things he's done to help people. And of course, I'll leave it to you on a rewatch of the whole show to decide just how much progress Oliver has actually made in his character progression, and if he really is a better man now than he was in the first season. And that's a question I kind of keep asking, and right now I kind of think A, not really, and B, I'm not sure the writers and producers really know exactly who he is now versus where he was at the beginning. My big takeaway from, and then Laurel shows up at the end, so which did not surprise me at all. Looked at a couple of blogs and recaps, and people are freaking out and talking about how great Arrow is at mid-season finales. I was not impressed by that, but I looked at a couple people who were like, oh wow, Laurel, what does that mean? That's crazy. She's dead. Well, we have lots of ways to bring people back from the dead in this show, and she could be all kinds of things. This was one of those spoilers I could not get away from. I couldn't escape from. I knew a few episodes back, reading something online on accident. I don't know. I don't remember what it was. Maybe it was a commenter, but I don't think so. I can't remember. But anyway, that Laurel is not going to stay dead, and that she'll be back, or at least that that we're gonna see her appear to be back. It could, as I say, it could be anything. I'm hoping that it's not like the personification of Oliver's grief or his subconscious trying to tell him that he really is a good person, and even though he's made mistakes and there are a lot of negative consequences to his actions, he's at the end of the day done more good than he has harm. We cannot get away from the hallucinations this season through all of these shows, so I think he's the only person in that room at the end when he sees her. It's entirely possible that it's just three ghosts again, but I suppose we shall see. Anyway, my big takeaway from this episode is, as hard as they've tried to bookend season 1 and bring back that kind of gritty street level tone, it is a shadow of its former self. It is nothing like that show anymore, and I can't decide if what I'm looking at here is the writers and producers trying to recreate that and struggling really hard and being frustrated with how they have changed, and with certainly some new blood, although my favorite episodes this season have been new blood episodes, so that's interesting, and I didn't check the credits to see who wrote this one, but I'm not sure if what's going on is these showrunners or these creators trying to feeling like we don't know how to make that show again, or if they actually don't really want to, and they like what these shows have turned into, and the kind of more over-the-top cartoony place it's gotten, but with all the backlash from season 4, and with even Stephen Amell saying our show is better as a street-level crime drama, we shouldn't have so much of the big comic book stuff, the magic and all of that. If they're saying, okay, we're going to try to give the audience what they want, even though we don't really know how to do that. That's not really our strength. But again, what's strange is when they put the right writers and directors at the helm, and again, it seems to be new people, they do know how to do that, at least better than we're seeing here. We have flashbacks to the first season, again, an episode we never saw. We kind of retroactively add somebody else's name to the list. It's possible that Claiborne was someone who really was on the list that we never dealt with, so we looked at that at the names and said, okay, here's somebody else we should go back to, and we'll make up a villain based on this guy who we never saw. There are certainly names on the list, I think, that we never dealt with, including is it Isabel, Summer Glau's character, who was on the list, but then was a character in the show, and we kind of forgot that she was on the list, because you would have thought, I made this point years ago, but I thought of it talking about this. You would have thought that Oliver would be like, hey, wait a minute, Isabel Rochev, I think that was her name, you were on my father's list. I'm supposed to murder you. Anyway, so we go back to the first season. That's all the flashbacks for this episode. We're not back on the island stuff, and thank goodness, really, because we have like weaponized tuberculosis in like drug form. And the first time I rolled my eyes, I wrote in my notes we hear Oliver like, oh, I've heard of this kind of drug before, and then we hear the sound we always hear, the whoosh, when you go to a flashback, and I was like, oh, here we go. We're going to go back to wherever we were last time with the flashbacks, and he's going to have dealt with this drug. That's not what we did, so that's nice. It actually has to do with, again, a mission he went on that we never got to see. And I found myself really missing the good old days of just Oliver and Diggle going out and fighting crime and dealing with the list. And I'm not saying you could have done the list for 5 seasons. What I'm saying is I don't need so much of the Felicity banter and Team Arrow and all of that. I kind of miss the simpler days of just a couple of just a superhero and his sidekick. And I'm not even saying you had to do that the entire time up to this point, but I'm not in love with the status quo. I've come around more on some of the new team members. I'm kind of glad that Evelyn turned out to be a mole for the bad guy, because she was the one that I never turned around on, and I don't care for that actress. So that's good. I question a little bit her turning around after she found out that Oliver was a serial killer, as she keeps calling him. I honestly think it would have made more sense if she had been planted there in the first place. I guess that sort of kind of works, but it's kind of... It makes me wonder if Prometheus had come to a couple of other, like if he'd come to Wild Dog, if he'd come to Ragman, if maybe he could have turned one of them to his side too, because these guys are unfortunately somewhat cookie cutter. There's not a whole lot to them yet, but then those guys do seem more endearing, and at this point, like, maybe there could be a little bit more to them than so that it would be difficult to imagine a bad guy just showing up and being like, look how awful of a person Oliver Queen is, like he did with Evelyn. But anyway, it also would have made a lot more sense, I think, if Evelyn had been working for Prometheus in the first place, given how much Prometheus seems to know about Oliver Queen going all the way back. And that's the big thing that makes it hard for me to buy Prometheus, and also I just think it's a little lame that retroactively we said it's this other person on the list who we never saw before. We're not paying off anything from the first season while we're trying to book in. A lot of people speculating who it was going to be, a lot of people wanting it to be Tommy Oliver, excuse me, that's Power Rangers. A lot of people wanting it to be Tommy Merlin, a lot of people really expecting it to be someone that we had heard of. It seemed like a big mystery. It's like the person in the grave. Who's Prometheus? Oh, I guess we shouldn't have been guessing this whole time, and you strung us out for half a season and it's not even someone we've heard of, unless, again, it turns out, because we haven't really truly unmasked him, that it's somebody else. He is answering to the name Claiborne, and halfway through they kind of give us a red herring where we think it's the elder Claiborne. I mean, I don't know why Oliver thinks that old man could possibly be doing the things that he's doing, but in that outfit, and matching him move for move the way he does. But he answers to that name, and then and then we find out pretty quickly, oh wait, no, it couldn't possibly be him. The bone marrow or whatever doesn't match, so it's someone else. And then by the end we find out, oh wait, it is a Claiborne, but it's not the elder one, it's his son. Okay. I thought that was a big letdown. But again, it somewhat because I really expected it to be somebody we knew, and I thought this might have been an opportunity to tie some things together with the show and make and kind of make up for the last couple seasons a little bit. That doesn't seem to be what we're doing, again, unless he turns out to be somebody else. But the other reason, besides it's just lame, is he seems to have known who Oliver Queen is going all the way back. And even though it took so long for Oliver to realize, oh, it must be someone who knows who I am. And even this, like, a couple episodes ago, getting just before Invasion, you had Oliver going, oh, wait a minute, it must be someone who knows my secret identity. And this episode, he does it again. He's like, oh, Prometheus knows my secret identity. Yeah, we've already established that is probably what's going on. Okay, so if Evelyn wasn't a mole the whole time, then how did he know about the other names on the list? How did he get his hands on the list? How did he know that Oliver was putting together a team and got Well, no, excuse me, I was going to say, and got Evelyn to go into it, but no, she was there already, so he would have, fought them and then pulled her aside at some point, followed her. I'm not sure how he got to her. But anyway, wouldn't it make a lot more sense if the reason he knows all those things is because he had somebody inside in the first place, and I'm hoping that there's just missing puzzle pieces, that this will all come together, but unfortunately I don't trust this show. I don't know if it's smart enough because of a lot of the strange retconning and things that it's done in the past to make that all come together and make sense. Let me go through some notes now and mention some other things I wanted to bring up. These will just be quick notes. Drunk Felicity is not funny. Sorry, she's irritating, and she was kind of annoying in the flashback too, I have to say, because again, we're trying to. It feels like the same show trying to be a better show. I mean, and it is. I mean, it's a show of the same title trying to be the show it was in the past, trying to be a better show. But it almost feels like some other show that's not Arrow trying to be Arrow. It's really weird. You have Felicity, and don't get me wrong, some of the early exchanges when she was Oliver's Lucius Fox before she was his Oracle, she would have these kind of witty retorts that I thought were lame or not very witty at all, and she would be literal to an annoying degree. She does that here, but I think it's the worst of them, and it's a flashback we made up for first season, which makes it worse. When she says, I have magic fingers, no, wait, no, I don't mean that I actually believe in magic and know my fingers are not, yeah, everyone knows that's a figure of speech. I realize that she's awkward and she's attracted to Oliver and she's kind of antisocial nerd and all of that, but it was just... This is just me. That was kind of a poor exchange, I thought, and I didn't really care for that. And that's just there so that retroactively we can have Oliver say, I believe in magic, because we know from last season now that on the island he dealt with John Constantine and magic things, and that he knew about magic and didn't tell anybody before he dealt with Damien Dark. So they had to toss that in there somewhere. You could have done that in a more clever way, I think. But anyway, that's why that's there. So I digress. I did not think that stuff was funny or especially well handled. Ragman suggests that Barry go back and recreate Flashpoint just to maybe solve this problem. Maybe if Barry goes back and does the thing that ruined, as Barry keeps saying, a bunch of people's lives, we could just kind of spin a roulette wheel and hope we get a better outcome. And that's another one of those lines that I think we just randomly gave to someone. I don't know that is a thing that especially makes sense for Ragman to say over anybody else, and of course he doesn't understand time travel. I think we probably gave it to him because he wasn't there for a lot of Invasion, and so, but I mean, neither was Curtis, so he doesn't, but Curtis is in the hospital at that point, but anyway, so he doesn't really know much about time travel or how it works and stuff, but I just thought that was like a really silly thing to suggest. Oh yes, let's go back to Flash, especially, and again, he doesn't know about all this stuff, but it's especially kind of amusing if you really start to think about it, because Flashpoint did not change any of the villain plots, any of them, even the time travel ones, even dealing with Reverse Flash, who we stopped from ever even doing the thing he did. We still remember it. It still happened, even though it didn't happen. And he's saying, maybe we can get rid of this bad guy just by doing Flashpoint. Nope, won't work. Sorry, not possible. And but I did kind of think Wild Dog's line right after that was kind of amusing when he says, well, no, we can't do that because then Diggle will end up with 5 kids. Actually, I feel like that. I thought that was pretty funny. Okay, what else? So, Felicity's afraid that her boyfriend's gonna get killed, and then he goes out and he gets himself killed. Not especially surprising. The kind of thematic crux with all of these, I want to say subplots, although it's pretty, it's all connected to the same A story, and this is a dense enough episode, I think. I'm not in love with it, but I like that everybody's relationship issues, as predictable and kind of, by the numbers as a lot of that is, that everybody's personal stories are all connected to the main story, and it's it's a pretty cohesive thing. But anyway, so the big kind of thematic crux with all of that is the idea of risking everything in order to be true to yourself. So, and for most of them, it's in order to save people because you want to be a hero. So with him, it's I'm a cop, that's who I am, I have to go risk my life, and of course he ends up getting killed. He's kind of the one that isn't so much connected to Oliver that it would be hard to call that his fault, except just his creating Prometheus. Okay, I mean that, he can then blame himself for indirectly being responsible for anything that happens as a direct result of things that Prometheus does. But it's certainly not like a lot of other characters where he brought them into the fold and into this thing, gave them the idea to go out and fight crime. So like with Curtis, at the end we have this little montage where all the things that Oliver can blame himself for once he finds out about them all, I suppose, because he created Prometheus and because he's running this guild of vigilantes. So Curtis and his husband kind of break up or go on a break. They end up separating at the end of the episode because of the ultimatum that Paul gives. Mr. Terrific says he has to choose, Curtis, he has to choose between being a vigilante or being Paul's husband, and I'm jumping all over the place, but it's kind of, I don't know that he's such a family man. I don't know that guy, I mean, Diggle is too, but I don't know that guy, as not great at all of this as he is, would end up choosing would end up choosing being a vigilante over his family. Diggle is and Oliver both reel back and forth all that on that and understandable. I mean, this is who these people are, but Curtis was a tech guy before all of this, and I easily could have seen him just get overwhelmed and in over his head and think that this is what he wants, and realizes he's going to lose everything he really cares about if he decides to continue doing this. And so I had a little bit of a tough time buying that, and I think it's just an issue of he's a known comic character. He's Mr. Terrific. The show's gonna play character drama, trying to make me like him more than I do, and he's got to keep being in a costume because he's Mr. Terrific. So they're not gonna tell that story, but then they should have made it more easy for me to believe that he could be a superhero in the first place. There's that line that Paul has at the beginning where he's like, "You shouldn't have been able to survive the attack from the throwing star killer. Where did you learn to fight like that?" I mean, that's not the scene I saw, and of course, at the end of the day, I don't think Prometheus really expected him, really wanted him to die. I was actually trying to kill him, but I think that's there so that we'll say, oh, look at all the training he's had. He's a lot better at this now. He's learned a lot. But they keep playing it for comedy, too, where whenever he's training, he's bumbling and he falls over a lot. And we're trying to have our cake and eat it, too, on all of that. So, anyway, but so you have all these characters who have to be true to themselves, and Paul doesn't believe in his husband being a vigilante, and wants him to and his priority is his family, so he's being true to himself. Mr. Terrific, we're told, is being true to himself, is however much you buy into that, and then the same thing with Billy, and that's kind of the big question with Oliver, and has been the whole series is, who is he really? What is his identity? How can he be true to himself, or is he so broken that he can never figure that out? And so maybe it sounds odd that I'm criticizing the show for it not knowing who he is, if that's supposed to be the dilemma, if it's supposed to be a constant, ongoing identity crisis. But the problem is, too often we get that to a place and then we kind of fall back with it, you know, where we have a character regression, where I think there are places where the show has decided they've gotten Oliver over a hurdle, and he is redefining himself, and this is who he is now. We progress from there, and then when that doesn't pan out and they kind of lose track of it, they start making it about the identity issues again, and so it ends up weirdly becoming a crutch that they keep falling back on, which is unfortunate. I do appreciate, of course, that there are major repercussions for mistakes that Oliver's been making, and for the way he's decided to live his life, where he says, okay, I killed Damien Dark, so maybe sometimes I do have to kill people. I don't know where we're going with the Samantha thing. Like, I don't know if we're gonna drop that she is trying to take advantage of Oliver and that he just can't trust anyone, or if she's gonna turn out to, I don't know if the show will be cool enough to do this. I would like her to change her mind and have a change of heart and decide that Oliver is worth helping, and that she shouldn't take advantage of him because, for better or worse, his heart is in the right place, and he's trying to help a city. You know, it'd be cool if he rubbed off on her in some way, but I kind of think inevitably she's going to just end up being the you know, sheep in wolves' clothing. Anything else that I wanted to mention about this one? I think cool things could come out of this, but if it really is Claiborne who is Prometheus, I think that is kind of lame. I hate to say, I'm not in love with that. I hate that we had to go a whole half a season trying to guess who that was, and he seemed like potentially really menacing, and I liked the cruelty of him, that it was all personal. And if it's someone that we didn't know about but Oliver did, and the only reason we didn't know about it is because we decided to add something, like, isn't there somebody else that couldn't we have made this the son of someone that we met in that first season? Maybe, yeah, you know, like it would have been better even if we retroactively gave someone that we saw in an episode a son. I Googled it to make sure that Claiborne wasn't somebody we'd seen in the first season. I'd just forgotten, and all I could find were the things about this episode. So I don't think that was a character we actually dealt with. But anyway, so I'm not thrilled at the moment, but I guess we'll see where things go. If you saw this episode, leave your comments and let me know what you thought of it. And in the meantime, I'm Captain Logan, and I will see you again with Legends in a few days, and then we'll be back at the beginning of the year with more Primetime Crisis. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.